Kioptrix level 1, which you can see over here. Welcome to the Kioptrix level 1 penetration testing environment over here. So we're gonna try the first level of Kioptrix over here, and over here you can see this is running in my Oracle VirtualBox, and we're gonna use our Kali Linux system. Yes. So the very first thing is to identify the IP address of the machine. So I'm going to use my local network to identify. So I'm going to use route-n. Route-n is to check the gateway IP of my network device. So I have the subnet, which is now 192.168.0.1. So over here we have a machine which is running in the backend of my local network. So we need to identify the IP address first, and then we have to penetrate those things. So very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use network scan, or you can see information gathering. For example, I can use NetDiscover, or you can use Nmap. It's all up to you guys which tool you're going to use over here. For my case, I'm going to use the NetDiscover. So let's use NetDiscover to identify the number of hosts. NetDiscover.
Partho, what about the other applications which are there? They are also used, or these are the two main applications?
Which one?
This one is IK scan, Dimitri.
These all are different types of scans that we can use. But for network scan, we're gonna use NetDiscover plus the Nmap.
Okay.
There is a situation that you have to use the specific tool in the scenarios based. So over here, when you're doing a pen testing, you have to make a goal or a steps. For example, when you're doing a pen testing part, remember that there were two parts, VA and a PT part. So it was vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. So when you have learned the information gathering part, think about the footprinting. Where and why we use footprinting? What is the use of scanning part? What is the use of animation part? And at the PT part, it's all about penetration testing. For example, the stage that you're going to use is called gaining access, maintaining access, and your last in the list is clearing tracks. But over here, there are two more important things that we have to do. Is after gaining access and maintaining access, there is post exploitation part. There is a part of your privilege escalation part. These are the proper steps we have to follow when you are doing a pen testing in the real life environment. You have to think about the scenarios, which tool I have to use in which scenarios based. If you are doing a pen testing of a server or a web application, there are different kinds of tools that you can use over here. This is all about information gathering part. For example, that's I'm going to use NetDiscover to identify the host which is on my local network. For that case, I'm using NetDiscover. And through the NetDiscover, -I is the interface of my NIC card. So over here I have ETO, which is Ethernet, and I'm going to specify the range. That would be my 192.168.0.1/24, and that would be my subnet according to my routing table. See over here that the scan has been completed and detected only 3 devices over there. For example, you can see these have IP address, the MAC address, the number of counts, the length of the packet, and the MAC vendor. So the first one is my gateway IP. You see it's not a non-vendor. The 105 is my architect, which is my base machine, and 107 is my PCS, which is my Oracle VirtualBox. But how we can see that this is an Oracle VirtualBox machine? If you are not aware about this one, you can use Nmap SN command to identify ping scan, to identify the number of hosts in the network. So over here, if you look, that 107 is your Oracle VirtualBox, as I have mentioned it. So this machine has an IP address which is 107. So what are we going to do? The main objective is when you're doing a pen testing to a server, you have to scan the server with the Nmap. So for that case, if you're doing a server pen testing, identify the open ports. Why? Because each and every port has a service. And their specific version also. So the most important part, remember, is called banner grabbing and fingerprinting. Banner grabbing is a process where you need to identify the services and the specific version which is running in a specific server over there. And fingerprinting is a process where you need to identify the operating system type and their specific version which is running over there. So for example, the most important part is your protocols. Each and every protocols has services. For example, your TCP and your UDP. But all are divided into services and port. Sorry. So what we're gonna do when you're doing a pen testing in a real life scenarios, you have to scan the entire network. So I'm gonna use Nmap. So the main objective is to find the open ports, the services, and the specific version, and the number of directories. So I'm gonna use small s capital C, which is a concatenate script scan, and I'm going to use small s capital V because I'm going to see the serviceless version. And over here, I'm going to use capital T with a 4. So I'm going to use the thread execution part with a level of 4. And the most important part, I need to save the output also. So I'm going to use small n, small o, capital N to save the output because we need a pen testing report also in the last part. So it's all about the let's name this Kiop one. And you can specify the path if you want. You can give root, desktop, the file will be saved over there, and the IP address of the server which you want to scan. So my IP address was 107 over here. So over here, this SC or SV is basically your, it will complete the three-way handshake on the server. And if you go to the desktop, you will see Kioptrix level text file over there. So the scan has done almost. And let's see if the server has an interface on the browser side. So for that case, let's open the browser. So we can see that the scan has been done properly. So over here you can see port 22 is open there. The port 22, which is statement, is open over there, and with the service is SSH and the version. So this specific period, which is known as banner grabbing, where you need to identify the services and the specific version which is running in the specific server side. And over here you can see the type of encryption standard they are using. And over here you can see the port 80, which is open, and you can see this is an Apache server, which is Unix, which is a red light Linux server. And over here we can see some ports are 111, 139, 443 is also open. So 139 is a Samba server and 443 is our open. It's an SSL connection. And over here, if you see in the Kioptrix, it also has been saved in a text file. So capital K. So you can see. So we can do it for the later reporting part. So we are not going to attack in the first part. We're gonna do enumeration first. So we have gathered that some of the ports are open. For example, SSH was there. Some port 80 was there. 111, 139, 443 is over there, which is your SSL server, Apache. And you can see some of the services also running over there. And we have a web interface. So over here, we can see this is a testing page over here on the screen, and it's showing us if you are an administrator of this website, you may know that the content of this directory are replaced. And you can see if you have upgraded it for Red Hat Linux 6.2. Okay, so it's saying it's an upgraded version of Red Hat Linux. So this might be CentOS. They are seeing this page because of the default root in this etc http config.file. So this etc http config.file is an Apache server configuration file, just like our Debian based. So you need to understand the architecture also, which file has been stored. So over here, any subdirectories which is existed on the home HTTPD should be moved to the var www, which is also an Apache directory. We can see. For example, if you check your own web server, you can see where. Okay, sorry, you will see etc. You can see Apache over here. So it will be configuration files, but this is a Red Hat Linux based, so their Apache directory will be a different source. So we have a directory over here. So the very first thing that we have to do is to crawl the entire network, to crawl the entire website to identify the directories and subdirectories on the server side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy the URL over here, and over here we're going to use a tool called on the information gathering. If you see over here, they have lots of tools. DNS enumeration, Pfing, network, OSINT, Maltigo, Harvest, NetMask, assembly animation, SSL analysis. We can see SSL scan over there, SSL dump, and SSL audit. Okay, let's use the website analyzing tool. So over here, yeah. So web crawlers are directory brute force. So we're gonna use web crawler to identify the directories and subdirectories over there. So we can see there are Dirbuster, wfuzz. So I'm gonna use Dirbuster because it's a GUI version to identify the directories and subdirectories on the server side. So for that case, we're gonna perform a brute force attack on the server to identify the directories. What are the parts? What other services are running over there? So over here, I paste the URL over here, and you have to give the number of threads according to you. So I'm going to give the number of threads. So let's give 80 according to your server. Remember one thing. And over here, you have to put a word list over there because we can perform a brute force attack. So in my case, in your local directories on your user share You can write word list over here. You can see there are folders like your derb, derbuster, fun, Wi-Fi, Metasploit. So we're gonna use derbuster over here because on the derbuster they have some directories, or you can say some dictionaries over there. So we can use it for a brute force attack. So I'm gonna, you can see there are Apache user animation, some directories, some other directories. So I'm gonna use the, if you open this one, you will see some common directories over there. CGI bin, education, bestie, and if I talk the number of directories, so the number of words. So there would be a lots of words. So for this case, you can use the large one, the medium one, the small one, because these contain some list of directories that we can use it for brute force attack. And the main objective is to identify the sensitive information or sensitive directories on the server side. So over here, I'm going to use browse, user, share, we're going to draw for word list, and the buster, and I'm going to use any of the dictionaries over here. So let's use this one. Yes, let's use this. So select, and you can see brute force for the directories and brute force for the files. And I'm going to remove the be recursive. Why? Because if it contains 100 words, so it will simply 100 into 100. It will make a large dictionary over there. And the directory will start from the root directory, which is your /. The one more thing that you have to use is your PHP, the file extension, because you need to identify each and every website has using different kinds of languages for hosting and publishing directories. So over here, I'm using Webalizer. Webalizer is a tool to identify the extensions and the directories or the files what are running in the backend server. So it's an active reconnaissance tool. And you can see the web server is Apache, the operating system is Unix, the web server extension are OpenSSL and more SSL, you can see over here. And you can download the Webalizer from the Google. You can only write Webalizer. You can download the Webalizer from here. So Webalizer is one of the best tools for reckoning part. It can tell us all the services which are running at the backend. So let's come to the directory lister. And by default, if it doesn't know the file extension, you can use PHP because most of the website they use PHP. So let's start.
Hello.
Yes.
Parthu, what are threads?
Threads are number of executions. Means faster executions. Means when you are using some scanning part, if you want to boost your scanning, so you have to give them threads, the core processor of your CPU.
Oh.
So you can see scanning 18% has been done. You can see the result over here, and you will see some result like this. You will see some directories, and some are directories, some are files over there, and you can see the files have been found. But the most important thing is to response code. The response code are the important part. 200, 403, you can see 403 is forbidden. 200 means that there is a file over there. For example, this one, sorry. Test.php is also a file over there. Manual is also a file. The users is there. You can see all are 200 requests. So it means that these are the files which is on the server side, and you can see the total number of requests which is standing over there. And if you want to see in a proper way, you can simply click on the tree view. In the tree view, you will get all the things over here in a proper manner way. Just like your CGI bin, your icons, your docs in a proper manner. These are the files on the server side. And you can see the maximum response of sites contains the data. So mitrg, what is this? We can see these are all HTML files, log files. Okay, let's see this one. So it's open in browser. MRTG. Okay, these are some log files over there. The main objective of your crawling process is to sometimes we get some sensitive data from the server side, and this is the important part. So as I can see that there was nothing that I find. So this was normal. There was nothing relevant I can see. But the most important part is to crawling to identify each and every services over there. So you can use it for the further stage. Some sensitive information can be leaked over there. And if you look over here, as a penetration tester, if you perform a automation part, if you perform an automation part, so there would be a proper type. So cat type. So over here we can see the port 22 was open. The port 80 was also open there. So we need to check each and everything. As a manual pen testing, for example, if I see open SSH 2.2, so we need to find the vulnerabilities over there, if you can simply find. So I'm going to copy this one. So I'm going to check this one on my ExploitDB website. So let's check, but we can find one OpenSSH 2.9. So over here we can see OpenSSH which has user information part, which is your remotely, which is a Linux types you can see over here, but we have Unix types over here. So what we can do, channel code of Wi-Fi. So we need to check all the things one by one, what can be happen over there. OpenSSH is a suite implementing on the SSH protocol. It includes client and server software and supports SSH and HTTP protocol. It was initially developed on the BSD. BSD is also your Linux operating system type. So a vulnerability has been announced in some versions of OpenSSH for an error occurs in the channel code. The malicious client may exploit this vulnerability by connecting to a vulnerable server, and there are lots of other things. But as a pen tester, you have to check each and every services over there. For example, I can see there were 2 extensions were running over there. There were 2 extensions. Sometimes the servers are vulnerable to the extension also. So I can see it has OpenSSL 0.9.6 and Mode SSL 2.8.4. So let's try with the Mode SSL first of all. Okay, let's remove one. Okay, when I remove the 4 one, I can see some vulnerabilities has been introduced over there, and these are from 2019, 2002, and 3 over there. And we can see this is a big exploits, vulnerable applications, some are verifications code, and the titles we can see. And the most important part is the type, the remote execution, and we have some DOS attack also there. And some platforms that we can use for Unix or multiple. So over here, what we can look is we're gonna check each and everything. Some of the vulnerabilities I can see over here: remote buffer overflow attack, mode SSL. Before attacking phase, just make a notes. What are the vulnerabilities over there? Mode SSL has a vulnerability. First of all, make a text. Then you can simply write some vulnerabilities over there. What other vulnerabilities are on the server side? You have to extract each and everything. For example, 139, which is your SMB, Samba, and which is port number 443. Over here, I can see OpenSSL Apache version, which is your Red Hat Linux. And over here, this is mode SSL again. So over here, we can see this is a Samba server. We're going to try one by one all the vulnerabilities. That's why I'm simply writing over here, exploits. So this one, I got this one from ExploitDB. And let's look for SMB, Samba. So over here, we can see this 139 was there, and we have to extract this one because there is no version. We can see there is no version. So for that case, I'm going to use Metasploit for information gathering part. So over here we have the Metasploit, and we're gonna use auxiliary over here. So auxiliaries are the basically scanners to identify the services. So I'm gonna use the search operator, and I'm gonna use the type one, and I'm gonna use type auxiliary, and then the name I'm gonna search is SMB. So I'm using some filters over here to specify the SMB auxiliary scanners over there. So let's enter. And over here, I can see all the things are auxiliary. And we can see some are auxiliary for admin Oracle. You can see, and you can see the Oracle SMB relay code execution. Check directory files, delete files, download files from the SMB server. There are lots of things that has given. So the most important part when you're doing a normal thing is you have to check each and every services. So our main objective is to identify the SMB version over here. So it's all also a recon part. We have to identify each and every services over there. So I'm gonna use, you can see there are lots of other things: negotiate, paid login, SMB relay, auditor, disruption auditor. I'm gonna use, we can see SMB animation shares also. What are the shared server on the server side? Some animation username to extract, user animations for SAM NM users. I'm going to use the SMB detection, which will be this one. Why I'm using this one? Because there are one SMB animation from servers SMB1 and SMB2 also. So each and every SMB protocol has a different operating system. So I doesn't know which version is it. Is it a 1 or 2? So I'm going to use this one, the SMB version detection. So I'm going to copy this one, and we're going to use the use operator and paste it over here. So we have set the auxiliary. So we need to configure this one. So I'm going to use options to configure. And we can see over here there's an R host, means the remote host. So we have only one remote host, and we have to specify the yes ones. So I'm going to use set R host and the IP address, which will be 107. And over here we have threads again over here. So threads, I already told you, the number of current threads will be your faster execution, the process. the GPU, you can say. So cross verify, this is only for one server, so that's why I'm not changing the value. It's only one, so you can change the value from 1 to 100. It's all up to you guys. If there is a large number of number of servers over there on the local network. So if you look over here, the ID hasn't set our host over there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run the auxiliary. So because I have already set the remote server, which is 107 over there, so we can run our host and run. So when the scan has been completed, I can see the host would be identify Unix and the Samba version is this, which is your Samba 2.2.1. Okay. So the most important part, when you look for the manual pen testing, you have to check each and every services over there. So I'm going to copy this Samba version, and I'm going to go to the exploit DB again. So let's open a new one, and I'm going to paste. So let's remove this one, some of the few commands. So Samba 2.2, when I put 1 over there, so it's showing me nothing. So when I remove the 1, there are around 15 entries, 16 entries, sorry. So over here, I need to specify. So very first thing, you should know that this was our Linux system. Red Hat Linux, you can see over here. So over there would be different types of services. For example, there are Linux, there are Unix, there are free BSD, some OX, PCS, some 9x 32 bits. You can see over here, Solaris, and you can look for the different page. So over here, I can see only one, Samba 2.2, remote buffer overflow, which is remote, and this is Linux. So as a pen tester, you should know each and every enumeration part. So I can see there are all trans to open buffer overflow, and some are Unix system over here, and some are free BSD also. So there's a better place. You can simply search on the Google, because Google will help you. So I'm going to use the text editor, so Google Docs. So I'm going to use text in text title, and I'm going to put the SME version 2. And over here, I'm going to write exploit. So let's see what we can find over there. So over here, I have 1080 x1, and there would be all 2.2.1 exploits over there. And some are all trans to open away. So we can see the first one, which is your Rapid 7, which is your Metasploit company. So Google Doc is also one of the best things to specify the payload type. And you can write Unix over here. So I guess the number of scan will be decreased. You can see there was 180, now it's 764. And you can simply use this one. So for example, you can see over here, Samba trans to open overflow attack. And if I look over here, what is the major cause? So we need to understand what is the major cause of the exploit that can occur. So over here, this exploit, the buffer overflow found in Samba version 2.2.0 to 2.2.86. Okay, this is on the range. So this particular module is capable for exploiting the flow of 32-bit of Linux architecture. Yes, do not have the no execution stack option. So when you're doing a report writing, remember, you have to specify what is this exactly mean. Most of the vulnerabilities are your buffer overflow attacks. So you have to specify each and every introduction of them. So this is all buffer overflow. So it's on assembly over there. And you can try, I'm trying to protect the application against buffer overflow execution. Among the things, I'm using no executable stack. The link my binary is with the no execution flag. So no execution flag was just a normal part that can be used to stop the attack, and it was set. Some older version of the Red Hat doesn't seem to be vulnerable since they apparently don't allow anonymous access to the IPC. IPC is where your Samba version. So over here, if you look in the bottom side, you can see the commands, and they are using trans to open, which was Linux type. So when we search over here on the Metasploit, so if we search, let's copy the trans to open word only. I'm going to copy this one. So you can see when I searched for the trans to open, they showed me around 4 entries, and they were FreeBSD, Linux, OS, Solaris. So these are the operating system that we used over there. But you have to specify the correct one. So over here, we're gonna use the Linux 32 bits. So I'm gonna copy this exploit. So I'm gonna check, is it running or not? So because all the pen testing is all about hit and trial. So use exploit, again the options, and over here you can see it's gonna use our host, and it's specifying a port number that it's gonna connect is 139. So over here, set our host. That would be my IP attack with my IP address 107. So this is a buffer overflow attack. Okay, this trans to open is a buffer overflow attack. So we need to specify a reverse shell also. When the buffer overflow executes, we need a stager where we can simply get the command shell or the metaperator shell. So over here, I'm going to use show payloads. So we're going to use some, I'm going to use a reverse shell. Why? Because when the payload will execute on the victim side, it will reverse the connection back to the attacker side. So you will see like a reverse shell, generic shell over here, and there are some other IPv6 TCP. You can see Linux X32 bits metaperator reverse TCP, which is also a good thing. You will get a master controller metaperator. We are not going to use we are not going to use any bind shell because the buffer overflow will work with the bind shell. So I'm going to use any of the reverse shell over here. Linux command shell reverse TCP. Let's cross verify. Is it working or not? So set payload and options. So over here now is the payload will ask me my lhost but when the payload will execute, it will give me bin sh. And on the local server, it will run on the port number 4444. So let's check my IP address, which is ifconfig, and my IP address is 110. So I have to specify on the lhost because when the payload will execute, I will get a reverse shell on my local receiver. So set lhost not host. So IP address of my server. Let's cross verify. And over here, I can see the lhost has been set on the payload type, and the exploit has been set over here also. So we're going to use exploit, and we're going to use the payload to get a reverse connection over there. So the last thing which I'm going to do is exploit. And you can see over here, command shell session 1 has been opened. 192.168.0.110 on the 4444 and 192.168.0.7 was on the server side, victim side. So we can cross verify with the netstat command on my local server. And over here, you can see Ruby that we use to exploit. The most important thing, how an attacker simply gain unauthorized access to the server side. So we can see the command shell has been opened over there. And let's write any command over there. So I'm going to write, who am I? So I can see root. So over here, it's specifying that I'm root. So where am I? PWD, I'm on the temp directory. And let's type an all. So we can see over here. CD root, and we are on the directory side. So the most important part is to specify each and everything over there. So we can get the bin bash because I need a shell over there. Yes. So this was a root access. So this machine was boot to root. Boot to root means you have to find the exploit and you have to get to the server side. A boot to root machine. So how an attacker simply gain unauthorized access to the server side with using some escalation path. And the most important thing is identify each and every services. That's why the Samba version was also vulnerable. It was 2.2.18. That was vulnerable to France to open vulnerability. And that could be used in the real scenarios, but you have to specify the recon part is the important part, the reconnaissance or information gathering part, where you have to look for each and every services on the server side. It could be a web-based. You need to find the web-based, or you can use the crawling part because some of the sensitive informations are leaked over here. And you can simply specify one of the things we have. And the most important part, make a proper documentation. You can do a screenshot, and the screenshot will save on your picture directory. You can see over here, I already saved some screenshots over here. For example, let's open this one. So this was on the today's time. Because the last and the least, we have to make a documentation. We have to make a report writing of each and everything which we have find over there on the server side. So this important part is all about your reconnaissance and your part of your VFPT. So that's why this is the important thing, the VFPT part, where you have to specify each and every services over there.